Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video may contain explicit descriptions of drug use, violence, and sexual situations. Viewer discretion is advised as this content may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone's enjoying this romp through 1968 with Hunter S. Thompson and the Kingdom of Fear. So yeah, we've spent the last few episodes at this convention and talking about the riots and how riots change things. So let's go on and see what we got here.
What I learned in Chicago was that the police arm of the United States government was capable of hiring vengeful thugs to break the very rules we all thought we were operating under.
Yeah, how can you respect the cops that don't follow the rules that they expect you to follow? And another thing is how can you respect, law enforcement if they hold themselves above the law and the society holds them above the law and the fucking police unions hold them above the law? So, and they wonder why no one respects them in this day and age. You go back to 1960s and you can see why.
On Thursday night in the amphitheater, it was not enough for me to have a press pass from the Democratic National Committee. I was kicked out of my press seat by hired rent-a-cops, and when I protested to the Secret Service men at the door, I was smacked against the wall and searched for weapons.
Yeah, that's America. And a lot of people think that all the shit we're going through now is new and out of nowhere. No, it all boils down to, it boils down to the 60s. All this, and I imagine the stuff in the 60s comes from the 40s or the 30s or the 20s. It's snowball. Keeps getting bigger. Like I said, this current round of craziness, like I theorize, or my opinion, I should say, it's not really a theory. It's not even really a hypothesis. It's more of an opinion. It's that the killing of John Kennedy was the maidenhead that was broken and started this flood of stupidity. Basically let all the whores into the Senate and the Congress and into the White House. And that's what they've been, whores. And we'll see if the American people have the backbone to start holding our law enforcement accountable, our politicians accountable, our local, our county, or parish if you live in Louisiana, state and federal elected rulers accountable and make them elected leaders once again and take that ruler designation from them. That's the only thing that's going to happen. And until that happens, we're going to be ruled. We're not going to be governed. We're going to be ruled.
And I realized at that point that even though I was absolutely right, if I persisted with my righteous complaint, I would probably wind up in jail.
Or in a hole in the ground.
There was no point in appealing to any higher authority, because they were the people who were paying those swine to fuck me around. It was LBJ's party, and I was an unwelcome guest, barely tolerated.
Yepper. That's the way it goes.
And if I couldn't keep my mouth shut, I would get the same treatment as those poor bastards out on Michigan Avenue, or Wells Street, or Lincoln Park. who were gassed and beaten by an army of cops run amok with carte blanche from the Daley-Johnson Combine.
Yeah, that happened back in 2019, 2020, and into 2021. I mean, that's not far. That's not history. That's not far back history. I mean, it is what the specifics of what Thompson is talking about is far back history, but the repeating of it is, 3-4 years ago, 5 years at most. So yeah, and there's a lot of people that are living now that the stuff with Kennedy, the 68 convention, and now it's all within the span of their lifetime. Hell, the span of their adulthood. Not necessarily their lifetime, but the span of their adulthood.
Well, Hubert Humphrey cried from tear gas fumes in his 25th floor suite at the Hilton. A lot of people felt that way after Chicago, and in my case, it was more a sense of shock at the sudden understanding that I was on the ground. I went there as a journalist. My candidate had been murdered in Los Angeles 2 months earlier.
Yeah, people taking pot shots at presidential candidates, it's what happens if you get a presidential candidate that doesn't have the convenience of Secret Service being around them. May get more than an earful.
But I left Chicago in a state of hysterical angst, convinced by what I'd seen that we were all in very bad trouble, and in fact, that the whole country was doomed.
And it feels like that at the time. Right now, it feels like we're fucked. It feels in like a movie big way that we're gonna get fucked, but it'll settle down, it'll chill out. We're gonna go into our cocaine and nightclub era, which is what the 70s were, Studio 54 and all that good silly stuff. But we'll chill a little bit.
Unless somebody somewhere could mount a new kind of power to challenge the rotten, high-powered machinery of men like Daley and Johnson. Sitting in a westbound TWA jet on the ramp at O'Hare, waiting for a takeoff slot, it occurred to me that I was suddenly right in the middle of the story I'd been sent out to look for.
Yep. I imagine when you have that kind of an epiphany, I imagine you don't sleep very easily. You just got all those thoughts bouncing around, all that energy just shooting around the brain. Everything's energized. I imagine sleep is hard to find. I know when I've had real epiphanies, that's the way it's affected me.
What had begun as a dilettante's dream was now a very real subject. That was the way it began. And for the first few weeks of October, the 1970 sheriff's campaign was a colorful, high-powered replay of the previous year's Joe Edwards for mayor uprising, which lost by only 6 votes.
Wow. That can only happen in a local politician. I imagine at a national level, 6 vote difference, I imagine there's going to be people recounting the crap out of those votes.
But the secret of our success that year was the failure of the local power structure to take us seriously. And by the time they understood what was happening to them, they almost croaked. Only a last-minute fraud with the absentee ballots and our inability to raise $2,000.
Yep, it's if you got to look at the inflation as far as political campaigns going. Here he's talking about $2,000. In today's political campaign, $2 million is whatever. That's spending $2 million is like a normal person going to the store and buying some chewing gum. It's kind of ridiculous.
To challenge that fraud in court prevented a 29-year-old bike racing freak from becoming mayor of Aspen. And in the wake of Edwards's loss, we created a completely new kind of power base, the first of its kind anywhere in American politics. It was a strange combination of Woodstock vibrations, New Left activism, and basic Jeffersonian democracy with strong echoes of the Boston Tea Party.
And that's kind of what we're repeating, what we're going through now, the reforms.
What emerged from the Joe Edwards campaign was a very real blueprint for stomping the Agnew mentality by its own rules.
Yeah. Agnew. Now that's a character in history. That is, that is like, yes, there are other people in his party today that are spitting images of the man.
With the vote instead of the bomb. By seizing their power machinery and using it instead of merely destroying it. The national press dug it all, mainly on the basis of a Rolling Stone article I wrote about the 1969 election.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and pause it here and call this good for now, and we'll come back next time and see where Mr. Thompson takes us. So until next time, everyone be a good human, be good to other humans. Peace.